Hi, this is Ivy Slater, and welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. I am so excited to share a woman who really has touched my heart with a passion in creating something that is important to us women everywhere. Adrianne Nickerson is the CEO and founder of Oula. She started in the healthcare space from college on, first thinking she would be a doctor, then getting into the business side, did Deloitte medical providers care and so much more in big companies and then in startups. And then in 2021, Adrian,
Mhm.
on a
2021.
crazy rainy snowstorm in February, she opened Oula. That is all about care for us women who are growing our families, having babies. She did this in her eighth month of pregnancy, as us crazy women do things. So, Adrianne, a woman I admire and I am thrilled to have on Her Success Story, and is such a model in what women can accomplish. Thanks for joining me here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the opportunity to connect and, chat Ula with like other women who are doing amazing things as well.
So let's start with the beginning. Share a little bit about what Oula is today and what it was when you founded it.
In a lot of ways, there's a lot of consistency, and like in some ways of what Ula is today is a lot of what we started with. But like Ula, it's a maternity care company, right? We partner with health systems to redesign how maternity care is delivered. And we do it with this team-based approach that brings together midwives, OB-GYNs, and care navigators, and like this team-based, really robust model of care. Um, and we did it because we felt like fundamentally the care model we had built in the US was the wrong care model for maternity care. And why I say that is like almost any way you look at the data, it doesn't look like we're doing great. So, like, if you talk to women about their experiences, they by and large describe pregnancy as transactional, impersonal, one size fits all, and at the very worst, traumatic. So, like, one in three women describe their birth as traumatic. So, like, experience pretty terrible. We spend more than any other country on our care, so it's not because we're not investing a lot of dollars.
It's not that we're not putting money behind this
Yeah.
and putting the investment to figure out the best way for women. We just kind of there's not things that really haven't worked for all of us. We're not all
Yeah.
one size fits all, by the way.
Yeah, shocking, right? That like the women are not a monolith. We are individual folks who have like really personal needs. And like this is such an intimate moment, right? Like you're like bringing life into this world. It's so much beyond like a medical condition to be managed. So we have this like poor experience, a ton of money we spend, and poor clinical outcomes, right? Whether you're looking at our C-section rate, our maternal mortality rate, morbidity, like any way you look at even our
Yeah.
the core clinical data, it's not great. So we came into the space being like, okay, we clear that there's something broken, but I think what's actually really exciting was like we also I think know a lot of what really great care looks like. We just haven't figured out how to make it work in the US context. So if you look at most European countries, they have a midwifery model of care and they have incredible outcomes and they spend a lot less and the overall experience with the care is a lot higher. And so in building Ula, we knew pretty from the very beginning that we wanted to create this care model that centered midwifery care at its core, but really brought a team-based approach because that was the thing that was proven to work. And as you mentioned, we started in 2021. We opened our first clinic. And so that model of care has been true since the beginning. I think what has adjusted over time is how we thought about building and scaling the business. And that health system partnership angle is something that definitely wasn't true when we first started, but is definitely how we figured out the best way to have our impact and see the most folks and really figure out how to transform the care model in the US.
So I have to ask, going back to the beginning for a moment, where'd the idea and the concept come from? So you have a background in healthcare.
Yeah.
Um, you were pregnant with your first at this time, correct?
I was
So it's
pregnant with my first, although
so
like
it's
the idea came before I was pregnant, but I was like
okay.
in the like ready to have baby
I was gonna.
phase.
So it's funny because I was gonna say. So there's no way the idea came, and all of a sudden, 7 months later, you're opening your first. So
Yeah,
this was before you actually went through this on your own
yeah,
as a first time experience as giving birth for the first time or in being a mom for the first
yeah.
time. So where did this come about from somebody who had not been a parent yet?
Yeah.
and then how, and let's start there because then I'm going to ask you, and
Yeah.
how in the world, you have raised a significant amount of capital,
Mhm.
and sometimes women founders struggle so with that. So I want to go there as well.
Mhm.
But let's start with, okay, never been a mom before, and I know we need Ula.
Yeah. Well, I think two things were true that it came together. One is I've loved women's health. I have a master's in public health and I focused on sexual and reproductive health. So going back to when I was like a 22-year-old after college, like I knew I wanted to focus on the space. And I actually did most of my work in that time in abortion care.
Okay.
So it sort of feels like abortion care and pregnancy care that they don't necessarily go together, but
Oh, they
to
so
me, it
go
was about
together.
bodily autonomy. And like, I
Yeah.
think I usually talk a lot about how I grew up with three brothers, and I do that because I think I thought the world looked the same for men and women until I was like 18 and I realized like, oh, it's actually really different. And I think so much is caught up in the choice of when to have a kid, how to have a kid. Like there's a lot that is tied up into that space. And so I loved it first from an autonomy perspective and focused on abortion care. And then fast forward, I got married. I was planning to have kids. And so I started just talking to friends more about the
Yeah.
experience. And in doing so, realized that there was so much connectivity between actually abortion care and pregnancy care that we've like created an incredibly paternalistic system, that we really control women's bodies through their pregnancy care. So I think that's the hook that got it connected me to it. And
Okay.
then I read this article, actually, I think it might have been the New York Times, about doulas. And it was so it caught my like fascination because I was like, what is this thing that people feel like if they don't have in the delivery room, like something bad is going to happen to them. It's like what is like there must be something so broken with maternity care that that's the case. And so I just sort of started digging and became like obsessed with the problem and also came away feeling like, oh wait, this is a solvable problem. Like I talked to enough
Right.
people to be like,
Like
we
I
actually
have
know what
ideas
it
of
should
how to
look like.
solve this,
Yeah.
right? Like,
And so I was like, I'm gonna like solve this for myself selfishly, like because I'm planning to have a kid. And I feel like uniquely able to do that because like the things that came about in like the discovery was like, okay, this is both like a care model problem, but it's a business model problem. It's like a US context problem. I'd spent, my whole career at that point working on the intersection of business and healthcare. And so felt like I had all the things that needed to come together to make it real. And then got to have two of my kids through Ula, which was like such a fun experience of like building the plane, as you're flying it, getting to be like the first customer or two of our clinic. And yeah, really getting to like continue to iterate. And now, even now, as like a mom with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, I sit there and I've watched my own health journey change. And it like makes me think through like, how do we continue to support women even post-pregnancy? And so I think we have like interesting opportunities that we love to think about how our care continues to
I
expand
think,
beyond maternity.
yes, I think women's care um, kind of gets looped into medical jargon, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
versus taking it as women's care, our
Mhm.
care. And it's, we look at our care, it's so much more than just that medical component. There's a medical and emotional component, especially during reproductive times.
Oh, absolutely. Right. I think that it said so well that, and I think that when I think of why we like built the care model, it was in response to a lot of women saying that
Yeah.
like this isn't just a like clinical condition I need to have managed.
No,
Like I am going through this huge life event. And of course there's like emotional aspects to it. Like you went from like I think of my postpartum experience and you're just like my whole identity shifted. Like it was honestly the hardest part for me was like the postpartum space of like I
get it.
went from, I'm an entrepreneur, I get to control everything to like I couldn't just like walk out the door anymore because there was this thing that like needed me. And so
Yeah.
there were just so many things caught up in it. We do like a disservice to women when we just like narrow them down to a fetal heart rate and a blood pressure check and forget that there's just like this bigger context going on.
And yes, and I will say, like when we talked earlier, I was very fortunate to have medical care that were really good human beings in the process, but that's unfortunately not often enough.
It's not. Yeah.
So let's go because I wanted to go here as well because this is so important for other women founders to know and understand. Um, there's always talk is it's so much harder for women founders to get capital. It's
Mhm.
so much harder for women founders to get capital. Share a little bit, Adrienne, of your experience in the early portion of this startup and putting it together because this
Mhm.
is a place that hats off to you. You've done amazing in so many areas. But I want our listeners to learn about your piece in this journey and see what is possible.
Yeah.
I didn't say, by the
Yeah.
way, it's easy. I just said what's possible.
Yeah. It's so hard because obviously you see the stats, right? Like you see how much money goes to female founders, and so it's like hard not to think about that. And then I just was though I've raised like 50 million at this point for the business, and we've raised
Touche. A little round of applause here. Congratulations, you've raised 50 million for the business, which is amazing, and you have built amazing partnerships with massive organizations that are not easy necessarily to get in partnerships with. So let's also go there.
um thank you. I think part of it is like I almost like don't think about it, and like it's like if you've made the choice to start a company, you've sort of accepted that these are your constraint sets. Like this is just the world that's out there. And if you want the thing to be out in this world, that's just what you're gonna do. And so we've raised capital in really hard times and we've raised capital in easier times. And I just have the mindset that you have to do, which is like we're gonna be successful. And this is just a piece of like the millions of difficult things there are about raising a company is like getting money. I don't know if I've like when I reflect back if there's anything that I think I've done in particular that has made it easier or not. I think um, it's really just been that conviction that this model needs to exist, and it just goes through whatever you're doing, whether it's a sales process to a health system to like create those partnerships, or it's a sales process to like capital partners to invest in it. Like you're running a process. I think what I probably spent the most time is like saying, I'm not going to spend time with people who don't get it, right? Like you spend time with people who want to get to yes, and you don't spend your time on the people who never want to. And I think that's true
I
in any
think
sales
that
process, and that's
is,
true in a capital process.
and I think that is so well said, and that is really significant. Spend time with people who want to get to yes. And when you see the people who do not want to get to yes, move on. And that's in raising capital as well as in sales 101.
Yeah.
Don't try to convert the people who are not convertible. Time, energy, money, not there.
Yeah.
Um, so in developing partnerships, you had partnerships with Mount Sinai, with Stanford. Talk to me a little, I'm please I want to make sure my information is correct.
That's right. And we can't announce yet, but we just signed a contract with, and we'll be opening in Charlotte, North Carolina. So soon
Woohoo!
to be announced in the next week or two.
I
Um,
love that. What has, again, partnerships like raising capitals is very similar to a sales process. What has you found has worked for you in getting large institutions to lean into women's health in a different way than how they have in the past? Where is that
yeah.
education piece that has been so helpful?
I think it's actually just like a market tailwind. I think there's been a change in what they are seeing and experiencing that is making them look for a partner that maybe I like in some ways I don't think I could have built Oula 10 years ago and been successful. Like even if I had like the best sales force and the best story, I don't think it would have worked because I think a couple things needed to come together for Oula to be able to do what we're doing right now. I can even look at it from when I talked to health systems 2 years ago to when I talk to them now. Like the amount of people who engage and like want move forward in sales conversations has just accelerated almost 4x. And what I'd say has changed is one, like the consumer has changed.
Yeah.
There is this wonderful data set and survey called Listening to Mothers. It was done in like 2002, 2012, 2017. I think they're actually about to release new data in it. And it asked some question around like how like overly medicalized have you made birth? Those aren't the exact words, but like that's the sentiment. In 2002, 17% of women strongly agree. In 2017, it's 54%. So you just see this huge change in consumer sentiment and how they are approaching their pregnancy care. And you overlay that with birth rates going down. So you have health systems saying like, I need to meet the needs of women and I have to compete a little bit more to do it. I have to care more
Yeah,
because they're like
I
fewer.
like
They
it.
get to be like
I
pickier.
like they have to compete a little bit more, that they have to
Yeah.
show up in the game and not just us.
Yeah. So they have to, they're thinking differently about it. And they're thinking about how to serve the female consumer because there's the shift in what it is that women are looking for in their care. And then I think that something we had sort of said earlier about like this isn't just a physical condition, it has so many other dimensions to it. And we built, and the care model they deliver and the model we delivered was built 100 years ago. It was based on a really different understanding of pregnancy. Life was really different. Fast forward 100 years, like that care model is just unsustainable. We can no longer deliver care in that way. It's causing provider burnout. We have like workforce shortages. It's not delivering great outcomes. And so there's all these structural things that are really coming to a head that a health system is also trying to figure out. And so those two trends together of like, okay, we have OB shortages, the workforce isn't able to deliver the care model that we built, and consumers are looking different, means that they're just willing to engage in a way that they like weren't. And I think we've taken the right approach with Ula, which is like we are not trying to rebuild on our own in a silo. We are trying to do it in deep partnership with health systems. We think that like bringing a great high quality health system with a rebuilt care model is the way to have the impact we want, to like have access, to have scale, and to really bring together best of both. And so I think that partnership mindset as opposed to like a disruption mindset has been the thing that makes us a good partner to health systems.
To ask this, and the what has surprised you in this journey? You know, first of all, hats off when you shared starting it in February of 2021. If you know that was just after the vaccine came out
Mhm.
for COVID.
Well, I
So,
remember I got the vaccine before they were saying to get have it for pregnant folks. Yeah.
and if I just want, kind of like throw out that in the timeline for our listeners to say, wow, that was the month after, I believe, the vaccine
Mhm.
came out, and how how before we go into what surprised you, I'm going to
Mhm.
give you a chance to think about that.
Yeah.
But then bringing women, getting women to come in and show up. How did that go at the beginning, at that time, right? You're looking at one of the strangest times and one of the unprecedented times in
Well,
healthcare.
actually, what's surprising, I think what was surprising is actually how many people just showed up. Like we didn't have, I mean, like we didn't really market in the beginning. I'm sure we like, had a website and things, but I wouldn't say that like we had a marketing engine to like drive awareness. And in some ways, you could say like the Willis care model is not the default, right? Like going to get an OB in hospital is the default, right? We're a midwifery collaborative care model. And so the fact that women showed up and showed up in droves, like we had to change our hiring plan in the first year. We're like, we didn't think we were going to need as many folks as like we had needed because people just came out. And I think in some ways, COVID was this surprise to us of like people were actually like rethinking through what it meant to go even to a hospital for delivery. It was this idea of like, I'm a healthy person, I'm pregnant. Do I want to go to the same place that's treating these folks who are incredibly
Right.
sick with COVID? And so I think people start actually looking at midwifery care in a different way. Some of it because they were
So
considering
it
out of
became an
hospital birth.
opportunity.
Yeah,
It
so
became
actually
an
there was this
opportunity.
education moment to folks that really like I think accelerated into the business was by no means like I guess a silver lining of like an incredibly horrible global pandemic was like I think it educated consumers a little bit more to think differently about care models and pregnancy care. So that was definitely a surprise and something that accelerated the growth of the business.
And I'm a strong believer in in every interruption, in every obstacle, there is an opportunity. And it's for those who have their eyes open that can actually then see it and step into it.
I
And
agree
that
with that. And
probably gave you then a marketing opportunity that you never saw coming in the original concept.
yeah. I'd say something else that resonates with me when you say that. It's like actually when we were going back to like raising capital for the business, we didn't feel like we could raise like our true vision was both to like create the new care model, but also to think about doing an out of a birth center to be able to do both the care model and the space. And we're like, they're never going to give us that much money. Like they're like, who's going to give us like the $5 million we would have needed? And so we're like, okay, we're going to test the care model first, and then we'll build the like birth centers if we need to after it. And we realized like we didn't actually need to do the second part of the business. We like that sort of constraint meant that we built the care model first, and we realized it was working and working really well in the health system, and it changed the whole like trajectory of the business. So I agree within constraints or within surprises, like it ends up um, transforming the business sometimes in a really great way. Like I think we're much more successful with the ultimate sort of go to market that we've landed on, the way we scale the business, and we wouldn't have had that without the like little trouble up front with thinking through like how to start and capitalize the business.
Can I ask, what's your vision? What's next for Ula and you?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've always been focused on maternity care, and I still am. Like the standard of care needs to change in this country, and like we are building the like team-based care model that should be the standard for everyone. And so we are continue to be focused on growing and scaling that in both. I want it to be true if you're coming to Ula, you're getting that care model, but like more and more people are adopting that care model because it is the thing that
Nice.
it has experienced outcomes. But I sort of alluded to this before. I am really thinking through what does it mean that we have served women through pregnancy care? What does it mean that we know about them and are just better equipped to serve them more longitudinally? Like if you have gestational diabetes during pregnancy, you're more likely to be diabetic. If you were preeclamptic during pregnancy, so like a really scary high blood pressure, you're more likely to have cardiac issues after. And so because we have such a fragmented healthcare system where some of it's done by primary care, some of it's done by your OB, like we don't really bring together that longitudinal view for women in a way that really supports them. And it's during this time that you've become a mother, and so much of your life has changed, and like
Yeah.
often like your health goes to a backseat to looking after your kids. And so I'm really looking to how do we continue to support and expand services beyond maternity care into like this what I call the motherhood era, this space where you're transforming from like having kids all the way to like towards the end of it going into menopause, and where like that connectivity of data and of understanding your health. I think there's a real opportunity to deliver better care for women.
I love that. And I think that is so significant and so real and so important. Um, as we close, may I ask you to share what tips or advice do you have for, and I'm going to do this twofold,
Mhm.
for founders looking to build, right, and raise capital to for startups in the startup world, and then for women who are going through this process of being dynamic and fabulous business women and leaders, as well as great moms.
Mm. So I think on the first one, my advice to the founders is to find like community. I think the thing that is most helpful to me, and I just had a nice dinner with founders last night, so maybe it's top of mind, is like it is hard. Um, there's probably no way of getting around that, but the thing that makes it easier is having someone to pick up the phone and chat with about your fundraise experience, or talk to you about who are the investors you should actually spend time with, or like research your pitch deck, or to talk about like the employee issue or the business issue. People who are going through that same experience, either at like the same stage as you or a stage later, has been like the thing that like has gotten me through hardest times in the business. So like build your community, build people who get it. Like it is so different to start and found a company than so many other difficult, careers to have. And so I think finding your community. On the second half of like being a mom and, being a great founder, I think I feel like it's the same answer in a different way. It's like you have to build your support system there too.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the thing that enables me to like do my job is first and foremost an incredible partner who like is the first person to cancel like his schedule like when like the kid falls sick and like daycare won't take them, and like I need to make so it's like building like your support system, both like friends and family, and also figuring out daycare, figuring out the other things that I know is a privilege, and like, but you really have to build the system around yourself to be successful. You can't do it all. You set yourself up for like failure if you think that like there aren't trade-offs to be made, but like building the infrastructure and the support systems and the redundancies. I probably have like five different babysitters I could call any moment. I have like my person, the backup, the backup, the backup. But those are the things that make it possible because both really matter. You have to figure out how to sort of succeed in both, and you need people and you need support around you to do it.
We do. And I think everybody needs support. And I think women sometimes have the biggest struggle of asking for help and bringing in that support.
Oh yeah.
And I will, say I became a business owner when my daughter was 6 months old.
Oh wow.
So you did it before me, and that was a long time ago. And this is the daughter that we have a granddaughter with, et cetera, et cetera. And the number one thing I've always believed in is build your support team. The one thing I've said to my daughter and my daughter-in-law is build a support team. Women supporting women, people supporting us, family, friends, and the next level's out. But know who your go-to is at a
Mhm.
moment's notice. Never be struggling for, oh my God, don't know what to do, or oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to get stuck, or I have a problem. Like it's not a problem if you have, okay, this is my mini obstacle, but these are my resources, and I can immediately go to the resources. And if he doesn't, and we don't have to then go through the stress
Oh,
because
totally.
for now we're just navigating.
Yeah.
Adrianne, thank you so much for joining me here today on Her Success Story. I'm so excited for what you're doing. I'm so excited for what you're doing for women in the women's health space. And thank you for taking this initiative for all of us.
Well, thank you. It's been so lovely to have a conversation.
And listeners, this is what I say at this time. Take a deep breath in. Just feels so good to take that moment and identify one takeaway from this interview today with Adrianne, the conversation Adrianne and I just had. Make a note of it. I don't care if you're electronic, you put it in your phone, you put it on a sticky note. It does not matter. But from this one takeaway, to make the decision on the action you're going to take. You stay with Her Success Story every week, and we create every week an action that's unique to you from what you're taking away. I promise you, momentum gets built, and that's a key to all of our successes. So lean into it. Um, Share this forward if this has been helpful for you as a leader, for you as a woman. And Adrianne, thank you again. This is an important conversation. I appreciate what you're doing and what you're building in the energy and space for women. So, listeners, see you next week on Her Success Story.